Hello and welcome back. My name is Bhante Sugato, and we're starting a new series, a series of book reviews. Especially we're looking in this series writings of Dr. Ambedkar, and we're beginning with one of his most popular work called Buddha and his Dhamma. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to keep this reviews as short as possible. And so for this video, I'm just going to dwell upon some facts regarding the book, and in the later videos I'll go deeper into the content and as well as some of the special features, and I'll tell you why you should read this book, how is it special, and so on. So let's begin. So this book was a response to many of the calls that Dr. Ambedkar received, both written as well as oral, as he says, after the publication of his article in the Mahabodhi Journal. So he wrote this article called Buddha and the Future of His Religion, and he said that Buddhism is not advancing very fast, it's advancing very slowly, and one of the reasons is that Buddhism does not have an advantages like Christianity has or Islam has, because they have their own one book in which they can get all the teachings, whereas the Buddhist people, or the people who is interested in Buddhism, has to go through huge body of literature. So this is what was his intention, to create such a book. And this was something very necessary, because it was in the 50s, and neither in the West nor even in the East, or including India, there were any books which were written in a way that the modern man can read and understand and approach Buddhism. So this was kind of a problem that he was addressing, and in response to this, he decided to write this book. And he was also aware of many of the questions that came into people's mind when they first came in contact with Buddhism. First of all, he was deeply familiar with the Buddha's writing, and he wanted to write a book and present a dharma which was appealing to a modern man and more rational, so to speak. And there were questions which did not make sense, like why Buddha left home? Was it because of the saying of the foresight, or is there any alternative answer to these questions? Or there were many writers in the West who were saying that the Four Noble Truths is suffering, and the cause of suffering, and all this created sort of a perception or impression of Buddhism that it was all about suffering and pessimism. So is the Buddha's teaching and the central teaching, and the teaching that is limited to Four Noble Truths, is it the central teachings, or are there any other teachings which are more relevant and more central? So these kind of questions that he was trying to address. Again, he was sort of looking at the questions of karma and rebirth, and trying to understand and explain it in a way that the modern person can make sense of it. And again, he was challenging a tradition. He was asking some radical questions like, why did the Buddha created this Sangha? What was the purpose of it? And he goes into all these questions during this book. Now, some of the interesting fact, this is just the background, some of the interesting fact is that this was the last book that he wrote, and which became very popular among the Dalit Buddhist community, the new Buddhist in India. And he died. Before he died, the last night before he died, he was writing a preface. He finished the preface, and then he peacefully died. So he gave a lot of energy and thought in writing this book. And he wanted to publish this book right before the actual conversion. So if you don't know, Dr. Ambedkar converted to Buddhism together with some 500,000 people in 2 days' time in Nagpur. So he wanted to publish this book before that, so that people can benefit and can read it and understand why, what was they were converting into. But unfortunately, as it often happens. The book couldn't get published before the conversion. It was published a year later, though. It's right now it is published in many different publications, including the writing and speeches series that he has. That was published by the government of Maharashtra. And then it is translated into 7 different languages. It's also available, that is to say Indian languages, and also available in audiobook formats. And I have to say, it's a pretty big book. It's 500 pages. So these are some of the facts that I wanted to reflect on before we go into the deeper questions and look into the content of the book and look at some of the specific features of the book. So I hope this gives you some glimpse and understanding and excites your interest into reading this book. And this is for it for this week. Hope you would like this video. If you do, please subscribe, and you will receive also the following reviews, which will continue. Thank you very much. I hope you have a nice week.